Imagine the roar of a powerful engine slicing through clouds at unimaginable speed. The metallic frame of a fighter plane glinting under the rising sun as it banks sharply to avoid incoming fire, and the pilot, gripping the controls with white-knuckled intensity, knowing that the fate of countless lives depends on his skill, courage, and the machine beneath him. This is no ordinary aircraft. This is the P-51 Mustang, an icon of World War II, a symbol of aerial supremacy, and a testament to human ingenuity in the darkest hours of history. Every rivet and panel, every curve and contour, was meticulously designed to perform at the very limits of aerodynamics. And every flight told a story of daring, innovation, and relentless determination. The Mustang was more than a fighter. It was freedom incarnate, slicing through war-torn skies, a harbinger of hope and victory where it was deployed. In the early years of World War II, the skies over Europe were dominated by aircraft that had seen the test of combat for decades. But with the rapid evolution of aerial warfare, there was a desperate need for a new class of long-range, high-speed fighter planes. The United States, seeking to aid its allies and establish dominance in the air, commissioned North American Aviation to design a fighter that could outperform the existing fleet in every measurable way. The result was the P-51 Mustang, a plane that would redefine what was possible in aviation, combining raw speed, exceptional maneuverability, and a range that allowed pilots to escort bombers deep into enemy territory with unprecedented efficiency. From its earliest conception, the Mustang represented a fusion of engineering brilliance and creative problem-solving. Its laminar-flow wing design, a revolutionary approach to reducing drag, allowed the aircraft to maintain higher speeds while conserving fuel, giving it an edge that rival planes could not match. The airframe was sleek and streamlined, crafted to cut effortlessly through turbulent air while remaining responsive to even the most delicate maneuvers commanded by the pilot. Underneath this graceful exterior, the P-51 housed a powerful Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, a heart that could propel the plane to speeds exceeding 440 miles per hour at high altitudes, allowing it to engage enemy aircraft with a lethal combination of speed and precision. It was an engineering marvel, a machine that turned theory into reality. And for those who took the controls, it was nothing short of a dream realized. When the first Mustangs were delivered to the Royal Air Force, pilots were immediately struck by the aircraft's responsiveness. Unlike many of the earlier fighters, the Mustang could handle sharp turns with ease, climb rapidly to meet incoming threats, and sustain high speeds without compromising stability. Its long-range capability meant that bomber escort missions, which had once been perilous ventures limited by fuel constraints, could now extend deep into the heart of enemy territory, significantly altering the strategic calculus of aerial campaigns over Europe. In combat, the P-51 proved itself time and again, its combination of firepower, agility, and endurance, earning it the reputation of a game-changer in the ongoing struggle for aerial supremacy. Stories from pilots who flew the Mustang paint vivid pictures of the intensity of combat and the unique capabilities of this legendary aircraft. One veteran recounted a dogfight high above the French countryside, describing how the Mustangs seemed to anticipate his every maneuver, responding instantly to his commands, as if the machine itself were alive. He spoke of moments when enemy fighters appeared out of nowhere, yet the Mustang's superior speed and maneuverability allowed him to evade, engage, and ultimately emerge victorious. These tales are not just anecdotal. They reveal the extraordinary synergy between pilot and aircraft that the P-51 enabled, a combination that often tipped the balance in crucial engagements and saved countless lives on the ground below. The design philosophy behind the Mustang extended beyond raw performance. Pilots needed visibility, ease of control, and the confidence that the aircraft would respond predictably, even in the most extreme conditions. Engineers incorporated a bubble canopy in later models, offering an unobstructed 360-degree view that gave pilots unparalleled situational awareness. The controls were finely tuned to respond to both subtle adjustments and aggressive maneuvers, ensuring that no moment of hesitation could endanger a mission. Every aspect of the plane, from its landing gear to its instrument panel, was conceived with a single goal: to create an aircraft that could not only survive the chaos of combat, but dominate it. The P-51 Mustang's early operational history is as riveting as its design. When deployed in the skies over Europe, Mustangs were paired with heavy bombers on long-range missions into Germany. These missions were fraught with danger. Enemy fighters swarmed the bombers, flak filled the skies, and each flight carried the constant threat of death. Yet the Mustang's presence dramatically shifted the odds. Its pilots could intercept enemy aircraft long before they reached the bombers, engage with superior firepower, and provide a shield of protection that had previously been unattainable. Reports from these early missions highlighted the Mustang's ability to maintain high speeds during extended chases, to climb quickly when enemy fighters attempted to break formation, and to execute complex maneuvers that left opponents struggling to keep pace. As the war progressed, the Mustang evolved, incorporating upgrades in armament, engine performance, and aerodynamics. Each modification was informed by frontline experience, ensuring that the aircraft remained at the cutting edge of aerial combat technology. Pilots who had flown older models often noted the difference immediately. The plane felt faster, more responsive, and even more capable of surviving encounters that would have been fatal in earlier iterations. Its versatility made it suitable not only for air-to-air combat, but also for ground attack missions, reconnaissance, and tactical support, cementing its reputation as one of the most adaptable and effective fighters of the conflict. The Mustang also earned fame in the Pacific theater, where its long-range capabilities allowed it to escort bombers across vast expanses of ocean and strike at targets previously unreachable by Allied aircraft. In these missions, pilots faced not only the enemy, but also the perils of long flights over open water, mechanical failures, and unpredictable weather. Yet the Mustang's reliability, combined with the skill and determination of its pilots, made it a formidable presence, capable of projecting power across distances that had once limited military operations. Throughout its service, the P-51 Mustang became more than just a plane. It became a symbol of hope, courage, and technological mastery. Newspapers and magazines of the era hailed it as a decisive factor in the Allies' ability to gain control of the skies, and stories of its exploits were widely circulated to boost morale both at home and on the front lines. Pilots developed a deep bond with their Mustangs, treating them not merely as machines but as trusted partners in a war where every advantage counted. The aircraft's combination of speed, firepower, range, and reliability made it a legend in its own time, a reputation that has endured for decades. The legend of the Mustang grew with every mission, and as the war dragged deeper into its most brutal phase, the aircraft found itself at the very heart of operations that would decide the fate of nations. By early 1944, the skies over Europe had transformed into a vast arena of relentless conflict, where thousands of aircraft clashed daily in battles so enormous that they darkened the sun with smoke and debris. Every pilot who climbed into a Mustang knew that his flight might shape the war, his actions might save hundreds of men, and his machine, this sleek symphony of metal, fuel, and fire, might be the only thing standing between victory and annihilation. The roar of the Merlin engine became the anthem of the Allied air campaign, its deep growl rising into a fierce mechanical scream as the plane climbed toward enemy territory, brought a strange sense of reassurance to bomber crews who had once prayed desperately for protection. They knew that when the Mustangs appeared alongside their formations, slicing through the sky with deadly grace, death suddenly seemed a little further away. The bombers flew in tight boxes, shadows falling over one another as they pressed toward German industrial centers. Below them lay the most dangerous landscape imaginable: cities bristling with anti-aircraft guns, factories pumping out weapons, and airfields where some of the most experienced enemy pilots waited like predators. The Luftwaffe had once dominated these skies. Their pilots knew every corner of the sky over Europe, knew how the wind shifted over the mountains, and how the clouds thickened over industrial valleys. For years they had fought with confidence born from experience. But now, they found themselves confronting an enemy plane unlike anything they had faced before. The Mustang was fast, agile, and long-ranged in a way that defied belief. It could dive like a hawk, climb like a demon, and chase enemy fighters across miles of battlefield without losing breath. The Germans were stunned. Their tactics, so effective against older Allied aircraft, suddenly seemed outdated against this new threat. Dogfights erupted like storms. The sky filled with twisting, spiraling fighter-silver Mustangs, dark-winged Messerschmitts, and sharp-featured Focke-Wulfs, all locked in a deadly dance of speed and instinct. Pilots fought at the very edge of human endurance, blood rushing to their heads in tight turns, vision narrowing into black tunnels as they pulled impossible maneuvers to shake enemies off their tails. Guns roared, shells exploded, fragments of metal spun away into the freezing wind. Yet through all the chaos, through all the terror that gripped even the bravest hearts. The Mustang proved again and again that it could not be outmatched. One mission in particular became legendary. The target was deep inside Germany, a factory complex protected by dozens of anti-aircraft batteries and surrounded by some of the most skilled Luftwaffe squadrons left in the war. Allied command knew the risks. Flying into that region was like stepping into a lion's den, and even the bravest bomber crews felt a chill when they saw the red line on the map depicting the route. But the mission had to be done. The factory produced synthetic fuel, a vital resource that kept German planes in the air. Destroy it, and the enemy's wings would be clipped forever. At dawn, the bombers lifted off, engines shaking the airfield as they rose into the cold morning sky. Frost glittered across their wings. Crews huddled inside the metal shells of their planes, checking instruments, praying silently, thinking of home. Minutes later, the Mustangs followed, sleeker, faster, their silhouettes like arrows fired toward destiny. They climbed above the bombers, forming a shield that would stretch hundreds of miles into enemy land. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher. The bombers droned on, their engines pounding like drums. Then, as they crossed into enemy airspace, the sky ahead shimmered with movement. Dark shapes appeared first, a few, then dozens, then hundreds. The Luftwaffe had assembled what seemed like every fighter they could still muster. It was a desperate attempt to protect the last lifeline of their war machine, and they were prepared to fight with ferocity. The first wave of German fighters came screaming down from high altitude, cannons firing before they were even in range. The Mustangs reacted instantly. Flights broke off, diving, climbing, twisting to intercept. The first collisions of metal and fire shook the sky. Tracers streaked through the air like burning comets. The roar of engines merged into a deafening wall of sound as planes slashed past one another at impossible speeds. A Mustang pilot named David Keller led one of the escort groups. He had flown more than 60 missions, had seen the war twist good men into hardened warriors, and had lost friends in battles that lasted barely minutes. Yet on this mission, he felt something differenter. Wait. A sense that the outcome of this day would echo far beyond the battlefield. As the enemy fighters dove toward the bombers, David pushed his Mustang into a climb, engine howling as it surged upward. He caught sight of a formation of Bf-109s, descending in perfect synchrony, like a pack of wolves closing in on prey. He didn't hesitate. He turned directly into them. Bullets ripped past him. The air around him screamed, but the Mustang held firm. David fired a long burst, and one of the German fighters broke apart instantly, trailing smoke as it tumbled downward. The others scattered, momentarily stunned by his audacity. But there was no time to celebrate. More enemy planes were arriving. The sky was turning into a hurricane of gunfire. For the bomber crews, the chaos around them was both terrifying and strangely reassuring. They could see Mustangs weaving through enemy formations, chasing down attackers, turning potential tragedies into narrow escapes. The Mustangs darted like silver phantoms, appearing from nowhere at the exact moment they were needed. The radio chatter was frantic warnings, calls for help, shouts of triumph and sorrow, but through it all, the Mustang pilots fought with a clarity and determination that bordered on superhuman. The battle raged for an hour, then another. Fuel gauges on both sides began to fall. Ammunition belts ran low, yet the Mustangs refused to yield. They pushed the Luftwaffe back gradually, mile by mile, until the enemy formations began to crumble. Smoke from burning planes drifted across the sky, mixing with the white trails of aircraft, still locked in combat. The sun, now high above, cast sharp shadows across a sky filled with wreckage and fire. At last, the bombers reached the target. Explosions blossomed below, as the bombs fell, huge fireballs erupting from fuel tanks, machinery shattering under the impact, flames shooting hundreds of feet into the air. The factory was devastated. Its loss would cripple the enemy's ability to keep its remaining aircraft operational. But the mission wasn't over. The bombers still had to make it home. The Luftwaffe threw everything they had into one final attack. It was an act of desperation, a furious attempt to break through the Mustang screen. Yet the P-51s met them head-on, fighting with a ferocity born from exhaustion, duty, and the knowledge that this could be the battle that finally tipped the war in the skies. Every pilot knew he was part of something historic. When the last enemy fighter broke away and retreated, the sky fell into a strange silence. Smoke curled upward from dozens of falling aircraft. The Mustangs reformed around the bombers, their wings scarred by bullets. Their engines pushed to the edge, but still they flew with the same proud grace. They had done it. They had survived the worst the enemy could throw at them, and they had won. The bombers returned to base, battered but alive, and the crews stepped onto the runway, knowing that without the Mustangs, none of them would have seen home again. Commanders reported the mission as a decisive success. Newspapers would eventually call it a turning point. But for the pilots who flew that day, the memory was far more personal. They had seen courage, sacrifice, fear, and triumph, all in one relentless battle. And at the center of it all was the P-51 Mustang, proving once again why it was the greatest fighter of its time, for the enemy. The loss of the fuel plant was catastrophic. Aircraft grounded, training flights cancelled, missions postponed. The Luftwaffe was bleeding strength, and it could not replenish what it had lost. Every subsequent mission grew easier for the Allies, not because the enemy lacked skill, but because they lacked the resources to fight at full power. The Mustang had helped break the spine of German air power, and the war in the skies began shifting decisively toward the Allies. But the Mustang's story did not end there. More missions awaited, more battles, more moments where the fate of thousands depended on a single aircraft roaring through the sky, defying odds, turning fear into courage, and transforming mere pilots into legends. The war was reaching its climax, and the skies over Europe were alive with tension that could be felt in every engine roar and every breath of cold, high-altitude air. Pilots of the P-51 Mustang, now veterans of hundreds of missions, knew each flight could be their last, yet they climbed into their machines with unwavering duty and purpose. Below, the landscape was a quilt of destruction: cities reduced to rubble, forests scorched, rivers running dark with debris. Smoke and fire rose like twisted columns to meet the sun, yet above it all, Mustangs glided with grace, silver arrows slicing through the chaos. Each aircraft carried not just bombs or fuel, but the weight of countless lives dependent on their success. Captain James "Iron" Reynolds led his squadron on one of the most harrowing missions in history. Intelligence confirmed that a critical German supply hub, essential for fueling their remaining fighter squadrons, had to be neutralized. Without decisive air superiority, the push into Germany could stall, prolonging the war and costing untold lives. The stakes had never been higher, and the men who climbed into their Mustangs carried the burden of strategy, history, and morality on every maneuver as dawn broke. The Mustangs lifted from their bases, engines screaming into the pale light. Frost sparkled along the wings, and the pilots' breaths formed clouds in the frigid air. Reynolds felt the familiar weight of adrenaline as he checked his instruments one last time. Formation after formation of bombers followed, lumbering through the sky like massive, vulnerable islands, with Mustang pilots weaving intricate patterns of protection, ready to intercept any threat. Crossing into enemy territory, the radio crackled with tense voices. Spotters had detected a large assembly of Luftwaffe fighters, including whispers of the jet-powered Me-62s, sending chills through even the bravest pilots. Reynolds signaled his squadron to tighten formation, their sleek machines glinting in the weak sunlight as they prepared for engagement. Mustangs twisted, rolled, and climbed to intercept each maneuver, a calculated risk. Pilots shouted into their headsets, warning of enemy positions, coordinating attacks, and sharing vital information where a single second of hesitation could be fatal. Reynolds targeted a formation of FW-190s diving on the bombers. His Mustang surged forward with raw power, the Merlin engine propelling the plane as if it were an extension of his will. Bullets tore through the air, ripping into enemy planes. One FW-190 spiraled out of control, smoke trailing in its wake, crashing into a distant field. Victory was fleeting as another wave of fighters swept in, forcing Reynolds to bank sharply, pulling high G-forces that made his vision tunnel. Above the chaos, bombers pressed toward their target, heavily laden and vulnerable, yet protected by the relentless courage of the Mustangs. Tracers and cannon fire painted the sky with violent streaks, explosions punctuating the ERA deadly ballet unfolding above Europe. Pilots' focus narrowed to instinctual precision. There was no room for fear, only the raw need to survive, protect, and complete the mission. Hours passed in a blur of speed, fire, and motion. Each Mustang pilot faced the relentless intensity of aerial warfare, testing the limits of skill and endurance. When the formation finally approached the targeter's sprawling complex of fuel depots and supply lines, the bombers released their payloads, and fire blossomed across the ground, consuming vehicles, warehouses, and ammunition stockpiles. The sky above was thick with smoke and debris, yet Mustangs circled protectively, ensuring every bomber made it safely through the danger zone. Even as the mission reached its peak, new threats emerged. Enemy fighters regrouped, attempting to exploit gaps in the Mustang screen. Me-262s made high-speed passes, their velocity a new challenge. Reynolds and his squadron adapted, climbing, diving, and outmaneuvering the jets wherever possible, using tactics honed over countless engagements. Their determination, combined with the Mustang's superior handling and firepower, turned the tide yet again. One by one, enemy aircraft were driven away, shot down, or forced to retreat. The pilot's bravery and machine capability triumphed against overwhelming odds. The mission wasn't over yet. Reynolds knew the retreating Luftwaffe would strike again. The sky remained a volatile battlefield, filled with smoke, distant explosions, and the echoing roar of engines. Every moment demanded vigilance. Even a single lapse could mean death. As Reynolds guided his squadron over the final stretch toward Allied territory, reports came over the radio another enemy flight approaching from the north. Pilots braced themselves, maneuvering at high speed, weaving through clouds and contrails. They anticipated the attack. Each Mustang was pushed to its limits, engines screaming, wings flexing under extreme G-forces, as pilots executed split-second decisions. Tracers flew past, sometimes missing by inches. One of Reynolds' wingmen, Lieutenant Harris, spotted an Me-262 diving on the bombers. Without hesitation, he cut across the jet's path, forcing it into an evasive maneuver. Reynolds swooped in, firing a precise burst. The Me-262 erupted in flames, spiraling downward, a symbol of ingenuity and bravery, overcoming technological advantage. The radio buzzed with short-lived triumph, essential for morale. Despite exhaustion, fear, and the overwhelming presence of death, determination never wavered. The P-51s became extensions of their willpower machines that could survive and dominate under the harshest conditions. Finally, as the formation approached friendly airspace, the last enemy planes retreated, leaving the bombers to glide home under Mustang protection. Tension eased, replaced with relief and the sobering weight of lives lost and missions accomplished. Reynolds looked around at his squadron planes, scarred by battle. Pilots exhausted, but alive, and felt profound respect for both machines and men. The mission had succeeded. The supply hub was destroyed, strengthening the Allied advance. Every aircraft bore the marks of battle, bullet holes, scorched panels, and the intangible scars of close encounters with death. Yet they had flown with precision, courage, and unwavering commitment. These men had become legends, and their Mustangs, symbols of hope, freedom, and technical mastery. Reynolds climbed out of his cockpit, legs weak, but spirit unbroken. The adrenaline ebbed slowly, replaced by the reflective weight of history in the making. Each mission had been a chapter, each dogfight a paragraph, each victory and loss a sentence in the broader story of the war. As the sun set over shattered Europe, he knew the P-51 Mustang had secured its place in history, not merely as a machine of war, but as a testament to human courage, ingenuity, and the unyielding will to fight for what was right. The war's final chapters were a crescendo of chaos, courage, and unrelenting resolve. By late 1944, Allied forces had pressed deep into German territory, yet every mile was contested in the air and on the ground. The P-51 Mustangs, now seasoned warriors, had become synonymous with control of the skies. Pilots like Reynolds and Harris faced every threat: swarms of enemy fighters, flak-filled skies, treacherous weather, and mechanical failure. Yet the Mustangs proved faster, more agile, and more reliable than anything the Luftwaffe could muster. Their fuselages, scarred but unbroken, symbolized resilience and innovation, a testament to what human ingenuity, combined with courage, could achieve even in the darkest hours. Every sortie brought stories of audacity, split-second decisions, and unbreakable bonds between pilot and plane. Strategic importance could not be overstated. Their long-range capabilities allowed deep bomber escorts, ensuring crucial strikes on supply lines, railroads, and fuel depots. Allied commanders understood that controlling the air meant controlling the war on the ground. Mustang pilots became enablers of liberation, extending the reach of Allied forces. Amidst these calculations, human bonds remained central. Pilots formed lifelines to each other in a theater of death, reflecting on sacrifices, lessons learned, and the constant awareness that a single mistake could be fatal. They were writing history with every maneuver, dogfight, and daring rescue. The P-51 Mustang was their instrument, but courage, ingenuity, and determination turned potential defeat into decisive victories. Each decision when to climb, dive, or engage could mean life or death, success or failure. The P-51's engineering allowed extraordinary agility, its reliability executed with confidence. One harrowing mission over Berlin saw Reynolds' squadron escort bombers through a labyrinth of smoke, ruins, and anti-aircraft fire. Enemy fighters approached from multiple vectors, including terrifying Me-262s. Tracers streaked past, flak exploded nearby, and the roar of engines filled the air with a symphony of destruction. Reynolds guided his squadron in coordinated defense, neutralizing multiple attacks. Bombers released their payloads successfully, achieving a strategic objective impossible without Mustang protection. As the sun set over Europe, Reynolds and his squadron returned to base, exhausted but resolute. The mission succeeded, yet the cost was evident in damaged aircraft and the silence of those who would never return. Pilots repaired planes, recounted harrowing encounters, and prepared for the next sortie. Each day in the sky could be their last, yet they continued with unwavering dedication, driven by duty, honor, and the knowledge that their actions shaped history. The legacy of the P-51 Mustang extended far beyond mechanical specifications. It represented human determination, triumph of ingenuity over adversity, and relentless pursuit of excellence. Pilots spoke of Mustangs not merely as tools of war, but as trusted companions that responded with precision, reliability, and grace under fire. The bond between man and machine became legendary. Stories of these flights passed down, celebrated in books, documentaries, and historical records, preserving the memory of their extraordinary feats. Even after hostilities ceased, the P-51 remained an enduring symbol of aerial supremacy, technical innovation, and courage. Its role in securing air superiority, protecting bombers, and enabling the Allied advance remains an indelible part of history. The final chapter of the Mustang's story in World War II is not merely one of machines and battles. It is a narrative of human courage, perseverance, and ingenuity. Every pilot, mission, and maneuver contributed to the larger tapestry of victory, ensuring lessons of bravery, skill, and determination would resonate for decades. The Mustang, and the men who flew it, exemplified the pinnacle of aerial warfare, leaving a legacy that continues to inspire awe, respect, and admiration. For more historical WW2 videos, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment what topic the next video should cover.